Yo, what's up, party people? Welcome to another episode of Thrive and Dive, thriving in life as we dive into deeper conversations. And today is another episode, all things leadership with the boys, Joel and Dawson. How are we doing today?
We good.
Good.
Real good.
Love it. Before we went on air, Joel and Dawson were giving some great parenting advice. I feel like we need to do a whole episode sometime on being first-time parents with youngins.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert.
As long as it's within routine hours.
Yeah.
I felt like
routine.
I felt like since I don't have kids, I felt like I was listening in on like these two old wise sages talking about parenting advice and back when I was a young whippersnapper with no kids, all the things I did wrong.
I think having a kid adds 5 years.
Oh, it does.
So now we're going to be 10 years older.
Yeah, I'm the youngin now.
That's right. The youngest one of the group.
And fun fact, you guys want to share about your kiddos?
Yeah, so we have our second child due in a couple weeks. His name's Rory. He's really comfy where he's at right now. So I say a few weeks, might be a little longer than that.
Yeah.
So.
And then we have ours coming in about a week apart from Joel. So his name's Riley. So yeah, we're excited. But yeah, same thing. He just seems
not in any hurry.
He seems good. So
that's awesome.
We'll see, yeah.
And both your guys' first kids are in the same age, like
3 months apart.
3 months apart for that one, yeah.
Wow, that's so awesome. That's so cool. So they decided to come on Thrive and Dive despite having kiddos on the way. Mm-hmm. And if you don't see them in a couple of weeks, you know why.
You know why.
It's not because we fired them. We can't do that on Thrive and Dive. Kicked off the pod, saying reckless things. No, because they're fathers. And they got, big priorities.
And our wives would kill us if we were on the podcast and they were at home with 2 kids.
Yeah.
We can have your wives on the podcast as you guys watch the kids.
Yeah, the kids would just be running
around in the corner over there.
Pulling stuff up.
That's right. That would not be good.
Yeah. I love it.
Let's stay in this studio.
No, but we should have you guys on for like a young parents, parenting for dummies or something like
there
for those who are first-time parents.
Be down.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Great. Well, that's not today's episode. Today is leadership, and we are jumping into chapter 3 of the book, The Way of the Shepherd by Dr. Kevin Leman and Bill Pintek. If you haven't checked out our previous 2 episodes, be sure to do so because those are doozies. I was encouraged by our conversation, and I hope you guys were as well, those who have listened. And I am trying to find the 3rd chapter here, which is this, the 3rd principle. Drum roll, please. There you go. It is help your sheep identify with you. Bow, 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 bow. For this episode, this chapter, I thought it would be cool if it's cool with you guys. I'm just going to share the little summary that's at the end of every chapter and give a kind of a overview of what we're going to be talking about today and give you reason to keep on listening. This is the stuff we're going to be talking about. So at the end of each chapter of this book, which we encourage you guys to read, there's a little summarization of the main points. And this is how it goes. Point number 3 is help your sheep identify with you. And how does that happen? What does that mean? A couple points to that. 1, build trust with your followers by modeling authenticity, integrity, and compassion. Point number 2, set high standards of performance. Point number 3, relentlessly communicate your values and sense of mission. Point number 4, define the cause for your people and tell them where they fit in. And then point number 5, remember that great leadership isn't just professional, it's personal. So let's unpack these points. Mm-hmm. What does it mean to help your sheep identify with you?
This one was an interesting one. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the other 2 gave a lot more like imagery and things like that when you're reading it. This one was pretty straightforward, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's just like the chapter was talking about. It's just how can you leave your mark on your sheep or on your people. And I know we're going to be talking a little bit more about it, but it's just really cool because it's just all about the concept of how you are as a person will be then reflected onto your people. So making sure that you're honest, that you're truthful, that you're hardworking, things like that will all leave an imprint on your people. So yeah, this was a really good chapter.
I think this 3rd chapter, not that this first 2 didn't, like the first 2 talk about concepts that are essential to leadership. I think chapter 3 dives into tangible things that we as leaders can do practically on a daily basis. Not that 1 and 2 didn't have that, but most of the time we spent in chapter 3 kind of unpacks real ways that we as leaders and those in leadership positions can and how they should behave to help achieve these goals. Not that 1 and 2 didn't, but I feel like this one's a little more practical and not as not lofty, but more practical as opposed to like just concepts.
Yeah. I would say even the previous 2 chapters are more universal. Like every leader is going to apply it in the same way, but this one's more prescriptive to your company because, it's going to talk a lot about values and what's important to you and your company. Not every company has the same values, which is good. It should be tailor-made to what's most important to you. The only bad values is no values at all, or named values written in words, but not communicated in action. So yeah, I would love to go through these points and just chat about them for a little bit. So the first one is build trust with your followers by modeling authenticity, integrity, and compassion. Why is that so important? What are some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially just like the common phrase, just practice what you preach. Because I think we all know the type of leaders that will follow and want to be like are those people that are practicing what they preach. And we definitely know people that don't do that, and those people don't have as authentic of a following. But yeah, that's probably what I would say.
I think as leaders, to echo that point that Dawson just made, there needs to be a level of transparency that you show to those that are following you. Obviously, as leader, there are things that you encounter that you can't divulge, you can't share, because that's part of your job to keep those things confidential or not necessarily lay those things out in front of the people that are following you. But I think a level of transparency allows people to see you as someone to follow. Because if you operate in an authoritative way where you don't divulge anything of who you are, it's hard for people to follow that person if you don't have that level of transparency, authenticity, integrity, and compassion. If you're a brick wall the whole time, it's hard to relate to, it's hard to follow, it's hard to want to get behind a brick wall. But if you're a person with emotions and a human side of them where they can relate to, or like, oh, I appreciate that about that leader because they show some human side. I think there's too many leaders who think they live on this platform that they should be untouchable. They shouldn't be able to be read. They shouldn't be able to be understood. It doesn't matter because I'm in charge. But I think that level of transparency is so needed to display these things in this first bullet point, the authenticity, the integrity, and compassion. I think it's super important as you try to help your sheep identify you. You got to be able to give them something to identify with. So
they created the equation that authenticity plus integrity plus compassion equals trust. And trust is, the secret ingredient. It's not a secret. You can't have I would say you can't have a successful organization if there's no trust.
Right.
Like we're just hanging out if we're not trusting each other. Like it's gotta go deeper than that. I don't think it's a luxury. I think it's a necessity. So these 3 elements, authenticity, integrity, and compassion equals trust. So I want us to kind of zone in on authenticity. I think integrity is an easier one to define. It's like doing the right thing even when no one's watching, being a man of your word. Compassion is even a little easier to define, showing grace and truth, compassion, mercy, things of that nature. But what does it mean to be like authentic? Because I think that's like a popular like way to describe a leader. I want to follow an authentic leader. Like my leader's not authentic, right? So what are we looking for? What does that mean? What does it mean to be an authentic leader, to lead with authenticity?
Someone told me once that authenticity is closely related to consistency. So if you are going to be someone who's authentic, that means you operate a level of consistency in whatever you do. I think you can be consistent and not be authentic. So I think you need to have a level of authenticity before you can, because again, you can be consistently angry, consistently mean, but authenticity comes with consistent care, consistent investment in the people around you. I think that's what authenticity, at least for me, that's kind of how I define in the role of just as a leader. We need to have a level of consistent care and intentionality that comes with being authentic.
Well, even one of you guys said in a previous episode, you don't do something for someone to see what they in turn can do for you. So when it comes to consistency and with authenticity, it's like I'm going to treat my VP the same as my lowest level worker. Like even if the lowest level worker has nothing to give me other than his 9-to-5 job, I'm authentically going to be the same. I'm not going to be political. I'm not going to size people up and be like, I'm going to be a little more nice to this person because of what they have to offer. That's authenticity. That's playing politics or finding loopholes around just good leadership, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think a good way, at least the way I just think of authentic is when you go and buy something that's fairly expensive, but it's authentic. A lot of times all that means that it's real. And I think when you're authentic, that just means that you're real. And kind of like what you guys were essentially saying, it's the person that you are to anybody and wherever you are. In the book even talks about Pytek. Pytek, the gentleman that was being interviewed, he was talking about how his dad is someone that's very, very authentic. He's the same person that he is in behind closed doors with his family, that he is at the school board, that he is at church. And all that just means that he's just real. He's not fake. And that's essentially just the way I think of it. It's just being just real, regardless of who you are, just not having to change faces, and be someone different.
Or agendas, depending on who's in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think of the biblical term hypocrite, what Jesus uses to describe people, and hypocrite, from what I've learned in church, I don't know, I've never verified for myself, but it was like an acting term. Like you act a certain way. Like a movie, theater. Like theater are hypocrites, not in a bad way. They're meant to be a hypocrite. They're not actually the person they're acting. But when you're a real life hypocrite, that's a problem.
That's a big old problem, especially in leadership.
Yeah. So authenticity is being the same, not being two-faced. Consistency, like you said at the beginning, Joel, really plays into that. And knowing who you are and who your organization is, like what you are. Don't pretend to be something you're not. Like, we know those friends that we maybe had in high school. Maybe we were that friend at a time. I'm sure I was guilty of it, but just trying to be someone different to fit in the crowd. Right. Like that's constantly the struggle in high school. For most people, it's like, who's my people? Who am I? Trying to figure it out. It's a whole 4 years of figuring yourself out. But once you do understand how God has made you, I think you're supposed to live into that authentically, be confident in that. I think a level of inauthenticity is contingent on your self-esteem. And I don't mean this in like some like grandiose, like you gotta be so not insecure, believe in yourself. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about be secure in the way God made you. Security that's grounded in your identity in Christ. When you know who you are, when you know your gifts, you're self-aware, you know your strengths, you will be more authentic because you're just being your normal self. Right. If you're insecure and constantly worried about what people think or how our organization look, if you're trying to save face, you're going to play politics and be inauthentic. So I think it starts with security. And ultimately, if you're Christian, security in Christ.
Right.
It's also just knowing who you serve at the end of the day, like you're talking about, because if you know who you serve, if you serve Jesus, regardless of where you're at, you're going to be authentic and you're going to be hardworking. And no matter who knows you at whatever walk of life, they should know you the exact same person.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes the pressure off. I know as a young leader, I was such a people pleaser, and that it was hard for me to be authentic because, again, I was playing the game for whoever was in front of me. But the moment I realized, like, all right, you're living for the audience of one. Like, who cares what other people think? If he's called you to do this, the only person you're accountable to, whether other people like it or not, is the Lord. And so for me, that was a huge, huge shift in my way of thinking, especially when I was in middle school, because I would have gone down a very dangerous road if I had given up my authenticity and who God created me to pursue the people-pleasing route. I would have exhausted myself, would have hurt a lot of people. I would have been probably an awful leader because I wouldn't have been able to rest in the person God had called me to be and realize that at the end of the day, I'm only held accountable to what he's called me to do as a leader. Yes, there's different contexts. Yes, I have another boss in my professional space, but that's the point I'm making. The point for me personally, every action, every choice, every direction, every vision I cast has to go through the Lord first. And at the end of the day, he's the one I have to report to. So that's it. Yes, you're reporting to the Lord. That's still a very high calling. But the stress of people pleasing, when I came to the realization, was a huge relief for me, for sure. 100%.
Yeah, that's good. So integrity, authenticity, compassion, lead with those things if you want to be a trusted leader. Guys, you got to have a team that trusts you. You got to trust your team. There's no trust. And this goes, I don't want to lecture again about Patrick Lencioni's books, but it's so good. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. If you've never read it, read it. The first level of dysfunction is when a team doesn't trust each other. You can't build anything successful if you can't trust your teammates, your comrades. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 that they share in the book is set high standards of performance. If you want your sheep to identify with you, you need to set high standards of performance. Talk about this a little bit.
Ooh, okay. So this one kind of, I think, stems from the first one because I've witnessed this on multiple occasions where the leader gets too political and is so again, I'll preface this by saying this leader sets the standard. Your behavior, similar to the point that Dawson made a couple episodes ago, when someone new comes into an environment, they're watching, right? What standards is the boss setting? What standards are the other people following? That determines how I behave and interact. But I think as leaders, if we fail to be authentic and we play the political game and we choose to be the people pleaser, there is no standard, because people are going to watch you change face depending on who's in the room, which means me as the follower, oh, I can do whatever I want to help myself succeed. It doesn't matter what the standard is, because clearly my leader doesn't have one. He or she just plays the room for whatever he thinks is going to benefit him best. And as a result, I don't have to follow a standard because there is no standard. So I think sorry, I got a little fired up about that one, because I think it's so important that we follow that first bullet point, because if you're not authentic and you don't have a standard for yourself, it's going to be impossible to set one for your team.
Yeah. Do you have an example that we can have either for your team or for yourself personally? Because we all have standards personally. And if you break your own standards, who was it? Andy Stanley or someone said leadership starts with leading yourself. If you can't even lead yourself and keep your own standards, how are you going to imagine a team to follow standards? Right. So what's a personal standard for you guys, or a team standard for the admissions team over at Warner that you'd feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah. Got one, Dustin?
Yeah, I have a personal one that I've had even before Joel was my now boss. When Joel was a while. It was assistant director of admissions.
I don't know. I think so.
Yeah, something. It was a while ago. It was like 4 or 5 years ago. Whenever I first started, one of the standards I set for myself, especially since a lot of our job in admissions, you don't necessarily get face to face with someone daily. A lot of times it's over text, it's over phone. So one standard I set for myself. Sorry, I don't want to mess. I'm playing. Sorry, I talk with my hands a lot, so I have to make sure.
You're expressive.
I'm very expressive. But one standard I set for myself was, regardless of who I talk to, I treat that person like, and this is going to sound really weird, but I treat them like I'm talking to like my mom, or I just talk to someone that I have a relationship with, and that's actually helped me a lot get into really good conversations, deep conversations that you would never think about when all you're asking for is a student's transcripts. Right. But just, that was the standards I set for myself. And that's also made it a lot more personal for me and helped me during my career so far. Just because I go into my role, my day, whatever things I have to do that day, knowing that, hey, this isn't just a name on my sheet. This is a person that I actually have a relationship with, that I generally want to succeed, to be able to get here, to experience what I felt at Warner and what I got to experience at Warner. So a goal I set for myself was that, and that's helped me just help any person I talk to, I would hope has had a similar experience to me. So kind of like going back to the point at the top, just trying to be authentic, just try to be the same person. But the standard under that would just be talking to someone like I'm talking to my mom or someone I care about. Yeah.
So there's probably a short list of professional standards I could rattle off, but the one that I think our team has adopted as a cultural standard is, and we're blessed working at an institution where the gospel and Jesus are the foremost thing that should be on the top of our list. And I think for us is, in every interaction, you could be first experience or reflection of Jesus that a person has seen that day. I think that's a cultural standard that we've tried to adopt, because whether that person's having a bad day, they lash out at you, or they're having a great day and they're trying to figure out how to get into your institution. I think as employees in our office, we should be a reflection of Jesus in every scenario that comes our way. And I think also that helps us put our I guess, the ultimate purpose and why we're there first as well. Yes, we work in an enrollment office where our job professionally is to hit the enrollment goal that's set for us every year. But we are called to so much more than just the professional standard that's been tasked to us. We're responsible for helping shape and mold the kingdom of God. And so for us, whether it's a campus visit, an angry mom, a confused parent, first generation college student has no idea what they're doing, our first job is to be that reflection of Jesus in the midst of that scenario. That's the cultural standard that we've tried to set and maintain. Yes, there's a lot of different professional ones that I encourage our team to pursue and for myself to pursue, and that's like excellence in everything, whether that's simply as sweeping the lobby to make sure it looks clean, to to handling a donor who just walked into the room, right? That there's different standards of excellence that I hope every one of us pursue. But I think a lot of it stems back to that first one I made, that cultural standard that we've set for our offices. We could be the first reflection of Jesus that person has ever seen. And so how are we going to steward those platforms?
Those are good. What happens when you personally break your own standard or a team breaks a standard? What does that process look like?
Personally,
how big of a deal is that? Like, I know for me, like I set a goal. I didn't meet the goal this year. Oh, boo-hoo. Oh, bummer. And then that automatically makes that next goal I ever create lose credibility because I didn't care too much about the other standard or the other goal or the other objective. So I don't say how heartbreaking it is it when someone breaks a standard or when you break a standard? What do you do? I'm just curious.
I think for me personally, I can't really, we'll unpack as a team, what that looks like. But for me, it's a slippery slope. It depends on the standard, right? Depends on the standard I've breached or if it's a goal that I missed. I think it could be a slippery slope if you get the taste of being okay with not meeting the standard. If you're okay with cutting corners, not meeting that standard you've set for yourself. So for me, it's like, all right, heart check right then and there, because this could spiral and domino very quickly. It's like, all right, didn't accomplish this one, failed in this space. What can I do to do better to ensure that I don't slip on the next one? I think that's huge. And acknowledging it, that's where it starts. Like, all right, I know I messed up. I didn't meet the standard I set for myself. I need to do better, because at the end of the day, the audience of one that I'm living for, obviously not every failed standard is a sin. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
sure.
But there's a standard of excellence I've been called to as well as Christ followers. So for me, it's all right, acknowledging it, having the self-awareness is huge, because there were many years where I'm like, about that standard, I was all right. I blurred that line, or I didn't do that, or didn't carry the weight like I wanted to. And I think it's, for me, I think it's as a leader that we've talked about a lot over the last couple of episodes, the self-awareness that is needed to acknowledge that you've messed up, and the gumption to like, all right, stop it there. Stop that slide, that slippery slope, that domino from falling over and hitting the next, is acknowledging that you did it.
Yeah, and I think that's what deteriorates authenticity is, or one of the ways that you can deteriorate authenticity is to have a standard and then just don't follow it. Like, one of my standards, since we're talking about it, is just to be a man of my word, right? I think it's biblical, but the Bible says let your yes be yes, your no be no. If you're saying you're going to do something, do it. Don't be that guy that makes plans and then flakes at the end. I think that just destroys your character in so many ways. Even if it's just something as silly as you tell someone you'd go watch a movie with them, like, nah. It's like, that's a big deal to me. So just, again, this might be more of a personal pet peeve than an actual universal standard, but when leaders are so careless of saying things like, we're going to do this, or we're going to do that, then we don't end up doing it, but no one remembers it because like so many things happen in a day. So it's like, oh, I forgot you promised that to us, or this or that. For me, I keep track of those things, and I'm not trying to keep a tally against my leaders. I'm just like, you said you were going to do that, but we didn't do that. Like, that's not authentic. That's not consistent. So, obviously in the political realm, people say they'll do things all the time.
Right.
And that's what they do to garner votes, but then they don't do it. And that's why politicians are usually not the most authentic, trustworthy people, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, leaders.
That's what they're perceived as well.
Yeah. So a leader can be a politician in that way, in the sense of a negative connotation, right? You promise so many things, you say so many things come in your mouth. I can't keep track of them all. And you're not holding to that. It's just eroding your authenticity and credibility. It's tough. And I get it. Keeping standards sometimes is hard. That's why the one response would be like, okay, I'm just not going to set high standards. So I don't have to keep track of everybody. It's going to be super chill. But no, I think we're called to a standard, and keeping it is part of the job, and it's super important. You got any other thoughts on that, Dawson? I kind of slipped in there.
Yeah, I was actually going to use a similar imagery that Joel said about the domino effect. But I'm going to say more so in relation to, because it sounds like you guys hit it in terms of if you don't hit a standard personally. But I'll talk a bit more so on the side of if you're the boss, or if you're the head person, and then you don't do a standard, or you slip on a standard and your people see you. I think for that, at least for me, especially like with being a son to a parent, my dad is someone that is also known for keeping his word, always does his best at everything, no matter, literally, I remember he was like an engineer, or not an engineer, electrician, and a handyman. And I was always asked to go and help him on mornings, weekends, everything like that. Coming back now, I actually wish I paid attention a lot more because I'm having to fix a lot of stuff recently, and there's a lot of times I have to still call him. But if something wasn't done right, or if we had to do something as simple as putting something into the wall or something like that, he would take the extra 10 minutes, regardless of where we were, just so that he did it right. Because the one thing that he didn't like was when people just rush stuff. But what I'm trying to get at is, let's say that my dad were to slip a standard, because of how authentic he is, and not fake he is. I think having that level of transparency within your team allows you to get more like mercy and grace, if that makes sense.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to share right after you're done there. This is a perfect segue. Like, we're not calling all the leaders to perfection.
No.
Right.
No, we're going to break the standard. I mean, that's the whole thing, missing the mark. That's what sin is, missing the mark. And like you said, Joel, not every standard that's broken is a moral sin, but a sin to the company in the sense of breaking the mark, right? The worst thing you can do as leader is just like, let's not address that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to apologize for it.
Right.
They'll get over it. I broke the standard. They'll get over it. They know I'm the leader. I got a lot to juggle.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I worked for a leader at one point in time, who were named nameless, that would break the standard. And I think this person was just okay with not owning up to it. But in reality, if you just owned up to it, everyone would be so like, oh, he recognizes it.
Yeah, he was humble, or she.
He or she.
It is, yeah.
They.
Yeah.
Whatever. No, just kidding. Yeah, they just took ownership of it. I think that would bring so much more compassion, authenticity, and mercy, and genuine care for each other. Is just not brushing under the rug and being sneaky about it. Taking ownership of it.
Yeah,
it's not authentic. It's authentic. Yeah, there you go. That's what being authentic. When someone says, "I want an authentic leader," that's what we're talking about.
That's it. Just someone that's honest and
not perfect.
No.
And then if you have people in your corner, because again, we all have self-awareness issues. We all have blind spots. Like, I might have not noticed I broke a standard, and then Dawson has to come over here and tell me. How I react to that tells so much about you. If I'm like, "Oh, thank you, Dawson. I didn't realize that. Thanks for doing that." But if I'm defensive, like, "Whoa, that's not what I meant by that. How did you interpret that way?" Then that just destroys trust.
Or who are you? You think you can call me out on that?
Yeah, like, do you know I'm the boss?
Oh,
like, I'm allowed. Yeah. So
I can imagine.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
If that, So just so as leaders, it's okay to mess up. Just take ownership of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Make sure it's just a bigger deal than don't let it just slip by. All right, let's keep moving. So the third thing that we got to do in order to help our sheep identify with us as the leaders is to relentlessly communicate your values and sense of mission. This goes with the standards, right? Your standards are going to uphold your values. Your values are going to apply your standards. But talk to us about this. What does this mean?
I think it's as straightforward as that. You're not necessarily reinventing the wheel every time. You're just every once in a while reminding your people the why, reminding them why we're a part of this. This is the reason we do the things that we do. For example, in our office, yes, we interact with families and prospective students to get them to come to the institution we work for. But at the end of the day, we're trying to point them closer to Jesus. We're trying to introduce them to the truth that is found in his word that can fulfill and satisfy more than anything that they've probably experienced in their life. So I think for us, it's just reminding people what we're about on a constant. I think of it like as a old style clock, right? It dings every hour, right? It's not going to not ding every hour. Every hour you're going to hear it. You're going to know it's coming. The moment it gets closer to the switch of the hour, you're going to hear it. I think that's the same way that we as leaders should be instilling our values and our mission. It's not something that you talk about every 6 months. It's something that you bring up regularly in conversation and staff meetings and conversations one-on-one. I think it needs to be a resounding gong. Not okay, you could drive it too far and annoy the crap out of people, but I think the consistency of the message is so important. In the highs and the lows, I think it helps put things in perspective, because if you lose sight of your mission and your values, that's an easy way to lose sight of what you're about.
Yeah, I mean, mission drift is so subtle, so common. Like, you just got to be a little bit off your axis, and over time, you end up in a totally different position than you set out. So that's one of the importance of that.
This is a big one. I feel like we could do that point alone. We could talk for a while, but I'll try to shrink it a little bit. But in the book, it even talks about Jesus for a little bit. I think it's only like a sentence, but he's talking about how Jesus was someone that constantly told his followers to spread the word of the kingdom, and but having to constantly do that. Not that I'm not trying to say Jesus was doing that like in an annoying way, but he was saying that so much because he wanted his people to get the idea across that like you need to tell people what's over here, how good it is to have a relationship with me, and having to constantly do that because like Joel was saying, or I think you said, James, all it takes is just one little thing and you're not on the right track anymore.
The right direction.
And you got to think even daily, we have to refresh every single morning to make sure that we're on the same track. If you're a Christ follower, you have to get yourself right every single day because it's so easy to just get off track. And you can, like Joel was saying, constantly telling your message and your idea and your mission. In the workspace, you might not have to do it as regularly, but it just goes to show you how important it is to constantly just tell your people because it is so easy to just get used to, all I'm doing is just typing stuff into a computer, just calling people. It's just another day.
Following in the motions.
Yeah, it's like, no, if you're not constantly doing that, it is so easy just to get off, and that's where standards start to slip and things like that. So that point alone is very, very important. That could probably be a book if it's not already.
Yeah. Well, most leadership books worth their salt are going to talk about values and mission. If you don't have values and mission, it's there's no North Star to go to.
No,
you're just kind of meandering.
People perish.
Yeah. There you go. That's a Bible verse right there. The Lord said that. The next one is define. This goes hand in hand with the mission part. The next point to help your sheep identify with you as the leader is define the cause for your people and tell them where they fit in.
Yeah. Creating buy-in is so important when it comes to living out and pursuing a vision as a team. I think sometimes we talked about getting caught going through the motions, and sometimes you lose sight of your place in the vision and in the mission. I think as leaders, it's our job to make them be able to help them see how valuable they are in pursuing that mission. Like, for example, a lot of the stuff we do is behind desks. We don't necessarily, yes, we interact with people via phone and text and email all the time, but I love for opportunities to bring my staff in front of these families who are excited to be here and excited to be a part of what is going on at Warner University. They can see the impact they had in that process. I think it's so important for leaders to help their people see the final product that they're contributing to. So they're like, wow, that was awesome. God used me to help bring this student here to this campus. Now they get to experience what God has in store for them over the next 4 years of their journey. I think it's so important as leaders to give them a glimpse of that final product, of that vision, of that mission, because that helps them see their place in it. Because you can, I think of it as a vision, as you've cast vision, you can talk to your blue in the face, but if they can't see how they can relate and fit in there or contribute to the final product, they're just going to think you're crazy talking so much. So they need to be able to visualize and picture themselves in the process of attaining that final product. And sometimes that requires you showing them what the final product is and pointing directly, hey, see that? What you did here made that happen. You may think that was insignificant or just another phone call, but the tone, the way you handled that parent or that communication with that student led to this. And now this student gets to experience all this that God has in store for them. I think that's at least my take on it.
Yeah, reminding them of the cause, especially in a ministry context, right? I was just thinking as you were talking, Joel, here at Warner University, we have our chapel services on Wednesdays, and the students have an opportunity to fill out a decision card, a U card, is what we call them, Connect card. And today we had 3, one made a first-time decision to follow Christ, one made a recommitment, and one made a decision to be baptized.
Wow.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Wow.
So just share that with your team, and which I have neglected to do, which I need to do this after we were done here. Because it gave me reminded of the why. One of the metaphysical questions that every person has to answer is, why am I here? And I think every organization needs to answer that question on a more micro level. Why are we here? Why do we do what we do? If you don't know why, then you're not going to have the drive, the passion, the hunger that we talked about in the last episode to do well, pursue excellence. And then also showing your team where they fit in on that. This makes them feel like they're a part, right? You're part of a team.
The work matters, right?
Yeah, you matter. And we don't mean that in like an egotistic, like stroke their ego. No, they do matter.
Right.
And I think a lot of times people just don't think they matter. Like, oh, they could replace me tomorrow. Like, is what I'm doing really that important? But if you champion as a leader of your team, like you did this, you helped accomplish this, I think is essential. I think of what you guys did, not to share your leadership strategies, expose your strategies, but I'm pretty sure you guys set a number or something in the emissions, and then you guys took like a trip or something.
Oh yeah,
like you guys celebrated.
You work hard. You work hard. You got to celebrate hard as well. I think that's so important. I remember. I'll never forget my second year as a professional in an enrollment office. We crushed the goal that was set, but the leader above our leader wouldn't let us celebrate it.
Wow.
Like they wouldn't. Yeah, you guys can have a lunch together on your normal lunch hour. That's all you got. Like you don't have to actually work. Well, all of you guys can take lunch together and you guys grab some pizza. I'm like, that's it. We just smashed a record. Our department in congruence with other departments. Because obviously Warner's, yes, we help bring in the students, but it's a team effort to get everybody in. None of us are given an opportunity to celebrate. There's nothing more demoralizing than not championing the people who achieve the goals that you're setting. Mm-hmm. I think that's so huge as leaders. Like you're so big on standards, or so big on overarching goals, but you need to be just as big as celebrating them, just as big as encouraging those who did the work to make it happen. I think that's so important.
Yeah. What'd you guys do to celebrate?
Oh, well, that's not public knowledge. But no, just kidding. Just kidding. No, we got away, just us as a team. I
think it's important to share the extent of the celebration. You can say, we celebrated them.
Sure.
You guys went on a trip, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We left the state, spent a weekend in a city outside of Florida.
That's so
just
cool.
Enjoying each other's company. Good food, good laughs. I may have lost some Wii tennis to Dawson that weekend.
Yeah, that's just awesome.
We just had a good time.
I think that's so cool.
Just got away. It was a good time.
Yeah. Many ways to celebrate, but I just want to make sure they understood what celebrating means, not just saying little thank you notes to everybody. Like,
play hard, you celebrate hard.
Yeah, work hard, play hard.
Yeah. No, I think it's important, and like Joel was saying, constantly having to show to tell your people how important they are is so important as well. And one thing that I think probably all of us at one point, if not a lot of the time, just like neglect how important it is to cheer and celebrate for things. Like what Joel was saying, it's so hard to, as disciplined as you can be, to consistently do something and not see where it's going, what it's doing. And I think back to my wife, she's a teacher, and her whole families are teachers, and they constantly, as a school, will constantly talk about the why, just to make sure that they're on board. But the one thing that Bailey's not been working as long as her mom, but her mom's been working, I believe, for over 15 or plus years. So the kids that she started at in elementary school graduated, I think her first class was like 6+ years ago or something like that. She said just seeing and visually seeing them like walk across the stage or like come back and say hi to them, be like, yeah, I'm graduating. Like just seeing that made them just feel that much more important. And I think it just goes back to what Joel was saying about how you have to consistently, yes, you have to tell people that what you're part of, why you're part of it, how important you are, but also visually showing them what they're doing just so that they can see it. Cause I think we're all visual like beings. We like, once we see something or like visualize something, we can do a little bit better. But I think that's very, very important.
Good. This leads us to our last point to help your sheep identify with you as the leader is remember that great leadership isn't just professional, it's personal.
This could also be a book.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just kind of going back to the whole thing about just being authentic. That's honestly just like, I feel like the tip of this whole thing that we're talking about is one thing that Joel does, and he's did it even with my previous boss, Scarlett. They would invite us over to their homes for like Christmas get-togethers and things like that. And I think there's something very, very personal of like welcoming someone into your home, because just for safety purposes, things like that, you're not just gonna let anybody into your home. So I think just for doing something like that just goes to show you and goes a far way just how much you care about your team and your people and want them just to welcome them into their home. So I think that is just a big part of that is just being personable. And if you could do that with your team, I think it'll go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, the people you spend the most time with are the people you. And so if you treat them as a product of the workplace, that stunts your ability to grow as individuals and as a team, one. And two, it limits your influence as a leader over their lives. Because as leaders, if we look at it biblically, your job is to pour into the entire individual, not just professional spaces that you've hired them for. And so in order to do that, you have to be personal. Professional only goes so far. It hits a wall that only personal touch and intentionality can get over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a true leader is okay and comfortable with being personal too. I think that's something a lot of leaders don't understand. Like I remember I had a boss once that kept everything within the box of the office, right? He never talked about his personal life, never talked about his hobbies. So I really only knew him as that guy in that chair at that desk. And as a result, our relationship was just that. And so, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed him. He wasn't mean or wasn't a bad boss, but it came to an end. And so it even made it awkward when I saw him in public one day. I'm like, oh, I don't know how to talk to you. Because I've never had a conversation with you that wasn't you behind that desk and me right here. So it was the most awkward trip to Publix ever. And so I think we as leaders need to ensure that we as ourselves become transparent enough and open enough where people feel comfortable to do the same. Because I think your team's going to succeed in leaps and bounds compared to what happened if you just treated them as a professional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, as Christ followers too, we're called to care for their whole person. And so for me, if I just treated Dawson like a fellow employee at work, I want to get to know so many special things about him that would benefit me by hearing his story, hearing how God's working in his life, how his family's doing, how he's enjoying his hobbies. I think we all benefit when we get to share in that intentional space as humans. Like that's the way that God designed us.
Yeah.
And if we fail to make that a priority, you're missing out on a whole lot.
Yeah, there's always a place for being professional. Like we're all professionals.
Right.
We don't do crazy talk crazy jokes or get HR on us. But how it be sometimes in even movies and stuff, where two friends are normally cordial, one friend's upset, so they start talking very formal, and it's oh, it's like that now. Oh, we're talking professionally. It's like what? And I think this is where it gets political, even sometimes in the office. If I'm just my professional self in front of you, I'm two-faced. I really am. It's having a professional side and then a personal side. And I get it. Maybe you won't be best buds with your boss. And personality plays into this as well. Some people are just more emotionally reserved, and it's nothing to do necessarily with their desire to be professional. It's just it's hard for them to open up to people.
Right.
I remember in my studies of organizational leadership, the difference between personal power and positional power. Positional power is very hierarchy based. I exert my hierarchy, my level of the org chart on you to do your job. Personal power is now we're collaborating. Obviously, I'm your superior. Yes,
got it right.
And you're subordinate to me in the sense of position, but it's not like that. We're working together on this. We're accomplishing the mission together. And personal power, as my studies shared, is way more effective long term. Positional power, you can bark out orders and get things done, drill sergeant style. And maybe there's a place for that in the military. I don't know. Never been there. But for everyone else in the world, personal power, I think, is going to be more effective, especially in a ministry context.
100%.
Oh, professional power exerted in a ministry context seems
Asking for trouble.
Seems just like a what's the word? Jumbo shrimp. What's the word to decide?
Hyperbole, whatever that one's called.
Dang it! Now I want to know.
I have something to add to that though. I think sometimes. Because I know for me personally, if I was ever over a group of people, that's something I would think about a lot is, if I'm maybe too personal, then they won't respect me because they see me as one of the equals, in terms of the hierarchy and not this. But I think that there are certain things, yes, there are certain standards that you can't necessarily push because there is that. But I do think if you are authentic, people will respect you enough to not push you to that, if that makes sense.
Right.
So for me and Joel, Like I've known Joel since 2018 we're teammates, things like that. So if you looked at that on just a book, you would think, oh, how on earth could I ever treat him like he's my boss? Mm-hmm. If we play on the same team together, we went through the same, it's because yes, there's positional, but also I just know him. I know him personally. I know how hard he works on when people aren't watching. I know what he does behind closed doors. So with all of that and my knowledge of him, I'm able to respect him enough to not push him to where I ever, what's that fence analogy?
Cross the line?
Yeah. Cross the line. Yeah. Cross the line.
Cross the fence.
So yeah, I think, yes, there's standards that you shouldn't slip because of, like you said, or not necessarily standards, but things that, you can't do because you can't say certain stuff or because there is a professional level. Right. But by being authentic, you're going to gain respect for your people because they'll see who you are.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I think if you respect someone, you're not going to push that boundary,
Yeah. When I spent some time as a high school teacher, this was the one area where it was so hard for me because I like being personal power, but being a teacher, you got to be more professional and personal or else you're going to get abused.
Also you being young as well.
That too. But it's just funny, like, yes, in the classroom, I'm the authority figure and these are my students. But unfortunately, a lot of leaders treat their employees like students, not as teammates. Very different. I talk to my fellow teachers very differently, not in a demeaning way to my students, but in comparison, my students see a different side of me than my teachers do because they're students. But if we treat our teammates like students, like, oh, teacher's here, right? Here comes another lecture. I don't think that works very well. So just understanding, yes, you are the boss, but you're the first servant. That's what leadership is all about. How can you serve your team? So anyway, this has been a good long episode, guys.
Yeah.
We've been tackling a lot of things. Hopefully you guys have been able to stick with us, and applying these truths is so important. So from the top, help your leaders identify with you. If they don't know how you roll and what the mission is, what the purposes are, what the values are, it's kind of like you can't call them out for anything if there's no standard. If they don't know how they're supposed to be, if there's no personal authenticity to the organization, they're kind of just meandering a little bit. So create that clarity, make things crystal clear, make things fun, celebrate the wins, a lot of different things. I can't highlight all the things we talked about. It was a lot of things, but any closing thoughts?
Be authentic.
Be authentic.
Yeah. Be authentic.
Be authentic. Authenticity. Yes. All right. This was Thrive and Dive. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to smash that like button on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, and see us again for the next episode. Hopefully, Joel and Dawson will still be with us, but if they're not, you know why. We got babies coming. All right. We'll see you on the next episode.